Hey guys, it's a nice, beautiful, rainy Earth day here, and I've decided that I want some quiche. So I'm gonna show you guys how I make my quiche dough specifically. I make a roasted hazelnut and smoked cheddar crust for my quiche, and it's pretty killer. So show you guys that, and then I get to eat some quiche. So sounds good to me. So to get you started, you'll need 75 grams of lightly roasted and peeled hazelnuts, 285 grams of cold diced unsalted butter, 454 grams or 1 pound of sifted all-purpose flour, 8 grams of sea salt, 1 whole egg that's been whipped, and 125 grams of smoked cheddar. Now, of course, you probably don't have this lying around at home. Check out the link in the description below to Haltwhistle Cheese Company. They're a local cheesemaker, really quality products, and they have a traditional English-style cheddar called tadwick that will go really nicely in this recipe. So give that a look, and then I'll get everything together and show you how to make this dough. So we're going to use the food processor to make this tart dough, and the reason I do that is it's just really efficient and really easy to get in the consistent crumb in your finished product, and that for me is important. So that's really the only reason why I like to do this. So what we're going to do to start here is we're going to pulse our hazelnuts until they are pretty fine. You want the hazelnuts to be at room temperature again, just so that those oils don't come out too quick and they don't want to form into a butter. So what I'll do here is I'll start pulsing it and then show you what the finished consistency should look like. So this is where we want it. It's still pretty coarse. You want this to have some texture to it because that's what gives the final crust some texture. You don't want it so coarse that you're going to rip the dough as you're rolling it. But this is pretty much exactly where you want it. So I don't know what you want to call it. You can call it mealy. Not fine, not coarse, just mealy, I guess. You know, just make it like that, just like that. All right, so the hazelnuts are in their bowl again, and you don't have to clean the food processor in between, obviously. Take about a third of your flour, all of your butter, and your salt all together here, and then we're going to pulse it together. And this is the part, probably the most important part, because this is where we get to get the crumb consistency that we're looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and start pulsing here. I'm going to try it with the video on, hoping the flour doesn't go everywhere on video. All right. So, like I said, just pulse it together, and then after about 15 or 20 of these, I'm not actually counting, open it up and see where you're at. Now, I've been told my entire career that you want pea-sized crumbs, and that's basically where we are right now. I've started going a little bit finer. I've just found that it doesn't really impact the flakiness at all. In fact, it seems like it helps it be flaky when you have cold butter. Even if it's smaller, you just create smaller flakes, but it's still nice and flaky for you. So that's, whatever your preference is, you can do. This is what I'm going to do. I'll probably pulse it another 5 times or so, and then we'll be at where we want. We can add the rest of the flour and we'll finish up the dough. So let's just do that real quick. Yeah, that's pretty much it right there. So we still have some pieces that are going to be pea-sized, but the majority of it is quite small. Now the whole dough is going to be super cold because of that butter. That's what we want. So I'm going to add the rest of my flour in here, mix it all together, and then add the egg, cheddar, and the hazelnuts back in. And if we need anything to bind it, we'll use a little bit of cold water. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. So here's everything together. I popped it out of the food processor because we're going to need it a little bit in here. And I've added already about a quarter cup of water. And you can see it's starting to stick together a little bit, right? There's parts that are probably fine to wrap up, but we want the whole thing to be a little bit drier, I would say, than that. So we're going to add a little bit more water to this. And you're basically, if you ever made a pie dough before, it's exactly what you're looking for here. Just enough water to hydrate it so it sticks together. It can still, if there's cracks in it as you're wrapping it up, that's fine. That's going to settle out as it refrigerates. But what we're looking for is just a little bit more moisture in here, just enough that it comes together, and then we can wrap it up and we'll refrigerate it for about an hour, and then we can roll it out. So so here's our finished dough. You can see there are some cracks in there, and like I said, I almost encourage that. Really, it's going to sort itself out as it rests, and I'd rather have it be a little bit too dry than too moist as it bakes. If it's too moist, that's what causes it to shrink as it bakes, so we want to keep it as minimally hydrated as possible. We'll rest this for about an hour, roll it out, and bake it off. Alright, so I'm going to start rolling this dough out now. Unfortunately, I can't show you guys that process because I don't have a tripod yet, but it's on its way, so don't worry. So I'm all prepped here. I've got some backup flour here. I used about half the dough, so you can probably get 2 tart shells out of this. My tart shell's prepped, paper on the bottom. I did grease the sides, just because sometimes once you actually bake it with the egg in it, the egg will stick to the sides if if you don't have it level or if it flows or whatever. So grease around the sides, and I'll roll this out and show you what it should look like. Okay, so we've pricked the top of this with a fork pretty thoroughly, as you can see. The next step is baking it off, and when we do this, we weigh it down. I'm using mung beans to weigh it down for the first 15 minutes or so, and then we'll take that off and finish the top once the bottom and the sides have gotten some color on them. I'm baking it at 375, and I'll do this for about 15 minutes and then give it a check and go from there. Alright guys, so this has been baking for about 25 minutes. The edges have started to brown a bit, and the top now, once I took the beans off, it started to look a little bit dry already. So that's pretty much where we want it right now. I don't anticipate it kind of bubbling at all anymore. So I'm going to put it in the oven for probably another 10 minutes or so, and then we should be good to let it chill, and then I'll get all of our fillings together. Alright, so after about 12 minutes of baking without the beans on top, you can see we've got some nice brown spots. It's pretty dry, firm, and then the sides and the bottom are pretty nice and golden brown, although it's hard to tell from this angle right now. So now I'm going to get all my filling together, and I'm going to do I had some chev in my freezer from Haltwhistle Cheese Company, so I'm going to use that. Some pea shoots from Dancing Dandelion Farm. The eggs I'm going to use from 8.5 acres just down the way, and then some kale and kale florets from my own garden. So I'm going to get all that together and throw it in the oven, and I'll show you guys the finished product. Alright guys, so here's the finished quiche here. So what I did was it was about a dozen eggs with the chev, the pea shoots, the kale in there as well. You can see it got a really nice golden brown on the back. It's a pretty awesome crust, and this is my dinner right here. Having way too many pea shoots with it. Look at those bright, vibrant eggs from 8.5 acres. Pretty excited about this. So I'm gonna mount this real quick, and then I'll talk to you in a second. Alright everyone, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, go ahead and support us through our online ordering. There's a link in the description below. And if you want to support local through the co-op, check out what they're doing. There's a link also in the description below. You can get pretty much any of your grocery needs delivered straight to your door. If you want to go out on Saturday from 10 until 2 at the Duncan Farmers Market, there's going to be 32 vendors there. Great local suppliers and producers who really need your help right now. So go and support them 10 until 2. They've taken a lot of precautions to make sure everyone's safe. But if you're not up for it, do it through the co-op. You can get a lot of the same vendors' products through the co-op that you can at the Duncan Farmers Market. And whatever way you do it, make sure you support local. Thanks very much.